Before we get to the entertainment, keep talking about Palestine. It is 268 days into the Israeli army committing genocide. Keep your eyes on Sudan and Congo. As with the past two reaction videos, I have a bunch of links in my bio. Please, 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 if you can afford to, donate to one of these. $5 will help a lot. Like, if that's all you can spare, please donate at least $5 to one of these links. Hi, hello, it's Rachel. Finale time. I have gone to great lengths to make sure nothing was spoiled for me because I'm very excited and I want to be surprised. Let's go ahead and get started.
Darkness was delirium. I tried to paint alternatives. Lucid what ifs. Wear a different suit the night you meet Lestat at the fair play. Snatch the piece of candy back from the barber when you're 7 years old. Would I have been stronger sooner? Would I have resisted Lestat 2 decades later? Snatch the candy. Be the man in the different suit. But the suit changes nothing. And again, I'm kissing Lestat on the altar.
And again, I'm kissing Lestat on the altar. I feel like this is confirmation that they view that as like their wedding night, which is a very toxic vampire for you.
Louis, save yourself. They're going to find out what I did. Do not worry about me.
I ain't fucking worried about you! Yeah.
Delayed response because I'm eating. But Louis saying, I'm not worried about you. Armand really just doesn't understand Louis. He either doesn't understand him or he straight up doesn't care and he just wants to live in this fantasy where he and Louis are enough for each other. Because if he understood Louis, he would have known that Claudia's death would make him extremely depressed, and like Louis, it seems like he's ready for this to be a suicide mission. Like, I think he doesn't care as long as he successfully kills the coven.
When a vampire commits himself to coffin, all the senses collapse into submission, and the dark boundaries of the world begin to stretch out in all directions. And in this state,
Louis is going full scorched earth, and I love it. I love it.
he and I are gonna spend the rest of our lives together. Wherever your miserable life takes you, whoever you find to endure time with, whatever pale proxy of me.
Whoever you decide to spend time with, why do I get the feeling that Lestat was in isolation this whole time? Because I feel like the self-loathing is strong enough that he would do that to himself.
I'll be with him. Just wanted you to know that.
Wow. Enjoy him.
Lestat's like, that's not gonna last, but he knows there's nothing he can say to make Louis see what he knows.
The night that Lestat brings all those soldiers home and you tell him to throw them out, how many soldiers did he mindfuck out of the townhouse that night?
I don't know.
10, 15?
More like 30.
Huh.
Huh?
Oh, well, it seems to me, I mean, back to the trial again, it seems to me that there was more than one person in the theater that night who could have saved you.
Daniel.
Oh my god, if Lestat is the one who got people to say banishment. Because I took this out of last week's because the show was saying that Armand did it. But literally when people started saying banishment, I was like, was that Lestat or was it Armand? And if it was Lestat, I'm going to scream.
I know. It's my job. I'm built this way. I know. It's a stretch, but...
It's in your nature, Mr. Malloy. Couldn't get out the door with...
Also, the music note that keeps playing, it was the same note when, episode 5. Because we have Louis saying, fuck, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head. But he said something about why he saved Daniel. And then when Armand comes back at the end of the episode, he says the same thing. And there's the exact same music notes both times. And now it's happening now. Lestat definitely fucking saved Louis. I love this. Thank you so much, writers.
Without lobbing one more bomb.
Well, you said it yourself just now. He loved Louis. Lestat would have tried to save him as much as you did.
And he certainly would have made it known that he had. Shall we take these follow-ups and specious theories to the dining room?
We have something special prepared for you, Daniel.
Santiago should hand the diary into the audience, have...
Secret script with Armand's notes. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is so good. This is so good. I love this so much.
And now you rise from your chair and walk towards Claudia.
And how do you suppose that you will keep her quiet in this moment? Hmm?
Lestat knowing his daughter. I'm not gonna survive Claudia from Lestat's perspective. Because we didn't get the chance to see it that much, but it's so clear that he loved her. In, like, the little things. Like, he was teaching her how to drive. He was teaching her how to be an effective hunter. There are these little moments that we saw that, like, there's a tenderness.
More of your cheap theatrics.
The judges will fog her mind.
You have no idea of Claudia's strength!
Lestat, no! I knew we were getting Lestat's redemption from the trial, but I did not expect it in the finale, and this is the best kind of pain.
And the sentence.
Yes! Ah! This is so good. This is... Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god. I have the biggest fucking smile on my face right now. God. The fact that Lestat sending those troops away was like a fucking foreshadowing of this. This is so good. This is so good.
Banishment.
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 Where does the bullshit start, Armand, Amadeo, Arun? You were supposed to die with Claudia. He didn't save you.
Daniel has become a Lestat stan. Oh my god. I'm like borderline euphoric. This is amazing.
You're not to touch him. Do you understand? You harm him in any way, I will kill you. Do you understand? I'm leaving now.
Yay, Louis taking his life back. Saying, I'm done with the abuse.
Who's he?
Louis.
That's Louis? He's Louis?
Get out.
Get out. Where? I mean, there's a mad hurricane outside. I keep fucking telling dog. Shit. God damn it. God. Enjoy your rats, you French fucking bitch.
Fire gift, Your Honor. Where is some fledgling? All the millennials are.
All the millennials are Lestat, a known millennial hater. That's hilarious. He's gonna have a terrible time when he is a rock star and all his fans are young people.
Did you save my life in Paris?
I gave you to Armand. You tell me if that was safe.
Why didn't you say it was me who saved you, not him?
I don't like to point out my virtues. Besides, I knew you'd figure it out. And look.
The self-loathing is so much. Why didn't you say it? Because he thought you hated him. And what was the point? Because it was the least he could do after he dropped you during that fight. Because there's like so many reasons. And it's it all boils down to because he loves you and he doesn't think he's worthy of you reciprocating.
It was 11:07 here. It would have been 9:07 in San Francisco. Armand called me.
Wait. This is when Louis is gonna say I love you, and he's gonna be like, I couldn't say it then, but I'm ready to say it now, or something like that. This scene is too much. This scene... I need to lie down.
Could have saved her from the fire. So a half century later,
She looked at me at the end like a child looking to her father. But I was new.
intro theme tune. What the hell? Kind of jarring transition. Okay.
And we are back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Atlanta, and welcome to my next guest.
Hello? Hello? Gail from Breaking Bad? Hello?
Louis Delac, it's me. Listen, your royalty checks keep bouncing back to me, man. I need a forwarding address.
Why not send them to your editors at the Talamasco?
The shit they made me take out. No editor's next book, I promise.
There won't be a next book. There shouldn't have been a first book.
You want the 10 million?
So Daniel is a vampire. Interesting. I mean, I guess I kind of expected it, given in the books he does become a vampire. But interesting.
Burn it.
Son las Tameshi.
Grattacielo.
El rascacielos.
The skyscraper.
The skyscraper.
Aw, the little painting of Paul. That's a nice touch.
Grow quiet now.
Who is that?
All of you.
Wait, Claudia's dress. Oh god. Oh god. This hurts. Okay, wrap up thoughts. There was so much going on this episode, and it's like, it's kind of hard to keep track. Like last week, I'm doing this the next day because my thoughts were so jumbled, and I was all over the place when I tried to do wrap up thoughts that I'm just redoing it now. And I've seen some people say that the pacing was off, and like, I definitely feel like some things were kind of rushed, but I don't have too much of an issue with it, because I feel like there wasn't anything we needed to see that was missing. I feel like it was just like some stuff got shortened, and it would have been beneficial for there to be like some more room for some of the plot points to breathe. But I don't feel like there was anything fully missing that we needed. So I'm not too upset about that, but like, I do think people who are upset and are saying it's rushed, I think that's a fair critique. Beyond that, for the actual content of the episode, I absolutely loved Louis' revenge. It was very fun to watch him burn down the theater, even though it happened a lot quicker than I expected, because I guess I expected like a third of the episode to be Louis planning, and we got like maybe 5 minutes of that. And then next thing we know, he's burning the theater down. But yeah, the fire was magnificent. Louis being in like action hero mode and just slicing off Santiago's head was awesome. I also loved Louis taunting him, because Santiago, evil man. I will not miss him. Armand's comment when Louis meets back up with him after he killed everyone in the coven except for Sam. When Armand's like, I've been with the coven for 200 years, and I wasn't sure like we'd last that long. Like, you shouldn't be doing this specifically for Louis. Like, if you want out of the coven, just get out of the coven. You're more powerful than everyone there. They cannot keep you there. I get that it's in Armand's character. He's scared to make decisions for himself, because like, we just keep seeing him manipulate people into making the decisions that he wants them to make because he's too scared to do something himself. I was like, Armand definitely did more than just be a spectator. But shame on me, I was blindsided that he was the director of the play. I really thought that Santiago had done all of this, and he was like, Santiago had like crafted this whole thing, and then he quote unquote forced Armand to aid him. But to know that Armand, just everything was a lie. Like Louis told him he was turning Madeline, and just he was like, "Yep, I'm completely dedicated to this trial, and I am the director of this trial, and everything beyond that point is lies." That was crazy to me. But it's also like it makes sense because, like I was saying, Armand is very scared about making decisions. So it's like the coven wants to do this trial. Okay, I will follow what the coven wants because it's like it looks like the coven's more likely to win, so I'm going to be on the coven side. And then when it looks like Louis more likely to win, he's like, okay, I'm on Louis' side. Like, it's very. I guess I kind of get it. It's like self preservation tactics. I'm really curious what the coven did to get Lestat to participate in the first place, because maybe he was participating because he was genuinely trying to find a way to like outsmart the coven. I don't know. I guess we'll find out if there was something else behind the scenes forcing Lestat to do it. But also the craziness that Lestat kept trying to fight for Louis and Claudia during the trial. And then I was like, and all Armand did was get into people's heads. And then it turns out that he didn't even fucking do that, and that was all Lestat. Like, Lestat tried with words, Lestat tried with taking accountability and saying that, like, he was at fault and that Louis and Claudia weren't at fault at all for the attempted murder. And then he literally tries by mind warping people. Lestat being the one who saved Louis. Literally the best twist of all time. He did all of the terrible, unforgivable things that he did in season 1 because he was so terrified of the outcome that he landed himself in with the trial. He was so afraid of someone he loves being put in that position. And I am a sucker for self-loathing characters. And we don't see that as much in season 1 since it's from Louis' perspective, and a little bit of Claudia's and a little bit of Armand's, because they probably weren't picking up on that. But it's like really evident between these last 2 episodes that he's very self-loathing. As for the reunion that we saw at the end of the episode between Louis and Lestat, I am... Okay, firstly, let me say that I thought it was very beautiful the way it played out, and like just them bonding over their grief about Claudia. It really felt like okay, so I don't know about a ton about Anne Rice, but I did recently learn that she lost a 6-year-old daughter. And the book, Interview with the Vampire, her book, was about her like processing that loss because Claudia in the books is a 5-year-old. And the scene, the reunion between Louis and Lestat, in my Mind makes that really explicit, that it's like about two people who, like, obviously the circumstances are different because this is a supernatural story, but the way the scene played out, it really felt like two grieving parents who lost a kid to like circumstances that couldn't be prevented, like an incurable illness or some like freak accident. Like it really felt like a story about two people who had drifted apart because they were so deep in their grief and they're finding their way back to each other now. And it was really, really, really beautiful. So that's the first thing I want to say about that scene. Second thing, clearly we're not supposed to know what Louis and Lestat said to each other when the sound cut out and we just heard the storm. But I feel like Louis had to have said, "I love you," because that was like the whole crux of their issues in season 1, because Lestat doesn't know how Louis feels because he can't read his mind anymore. And because Louis cannot bring himself to say, "I love you," Lestat is like, "So you don't love me, so why are we here?" But Louis also can't bring himself to say, "I don't love you," because that would be a lie. And I just I feel like it had to have been Louis saying, "I love you" for that first time. Which I'm annoyed that we didn't hear it, if that's the case. But I don't know, I really feel like that's what it had to have been. I personally need to hear Louis say it. We've been in the trenches. Hopefully you enjoyed my rambling. COVID rates are concerning, so please continue masking or start masking if you've stopped. There's a new vaccine for COVID that came out in September. So if you never got that dose, or if you got it before the start of the new year, now would be a good time to get a booster. I've got a handful of video essays in the works, so hopefully I'll have something out soon. Hopefully I'll catch you again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!